You sit down at your computer, determined to do the work. But within 40 seconds, your hand drifts to your mouse, you open a new tab, and suddenly you are miles away from the task you originally set out to complete. When this happens, the easiest explanation is a personal one. You tell yourself that you lack discipline, that your attention span is broken, or that you are simply lazy. But the biological reality is quite different. Your brain is actually overstimulated. This simple line chart plots your brain's stimulation level over time. Notice the massive, immediate spike that occurs the moment a new digital input is introduced. That spike is driven by novelty bias, a built-in mechanism that floods your system with pleasure chemicals, like dopamine, whenever you encounter something new. Because your brain naturally craves that chemical reward, it falls into a behavioral trap called method hopping. As this chart morphs, you can see how those rapid dopamine spikes quickly crash. You abandon useful work for shiny new apps, videos, or tools, creating a jagged start-and-stop momentum where you confuse the excitement of a new method with actual progress. Trying to fight that chemical craving with sheer willpower is a losing battle. To focus like a professional, you have to bypass willpower entirely and learn to manually trigger the specific chemical sequences that govern attention. You cannot jump straight from a highly stimulating activity, like scrolling through short-form videos, directly into deep work. Your nervous system requires a physical transition period. The mandatory first step is to sit quietly for 5 minutes with zero inputs. You have to subject yourself to deliberate boredom to let your internal system settle. This quiet period allows scatter focus to emerge, a state where your mind wanders freely. When you remove external distractions, your brain organically connects disparate ideas, retrieves buried memories, and begins incubating future plans. By enduring a few minutes of unstructured quiet, you actively lower your baseline level of stimulation. The intense, immediate craving for a quick digital hit starts to fade. Intentionally lowering your input levels is the required primer for concentration. It ensures the slow, methodical pace of actual work doesn't feel agonizingly understimulating by comparison. Once your baseline is reset, you can initiate the work phase. To do this, you have to actively trigger neuroplasticity, your brain's physical learning mode. This visualization highlights two distinct neurochemicals for focus. Epinephrine creates high alertness. Acetylcholine acts as a concentrated spotlight, filtering noise. Zooming out to the optic nerve reveals these pathways linked to your eyes. Staring intensely at a single target triggers the release of both. Before you type a single word or read a single page, lock your visual gaze onto a small window of your screen or a spot on your desk for 60 to 120 seconds. Mental focus strictly follows visual focus. Control where your eyes rest and force your chemistry to align. With your attention locked, you enter the working phase. Professionals structure this deep work in 90-minute blocks, known as ultradian cycles, which align perfectly with the body's natural rhythms. The first 10 minutes of this cycle will be highly uncomfortable. As the novelty of the task wears off, the epinephrine in your system will manifest as physical agitation. Your brain will aggressively demand a new, stimulating input. To survive this friction, you need a cognitive defense mechanism. The most effective strategy is a practice called parking the idea. When a distracting thought pops into your head, do not violently fight it, and absolutely do not act on it. Simply write the thought down on a piece of physical paper, promising your brain that you will address it later, and immediately return to your task. Sustaining focus does not require achieving a state of perfect mental silence. It requires building a simple behavioral shield that protects your momentum until one specific, small task is entirely finished. When your 90-minute session ends, you might assume the learning process is complete, but counterintuitively, your brain has not actually rewired itself yet. This close-up shows acetylcholine attaching a glowing marker to active neurons during focus, leaving them fragile. Actual neuroplasticity only occurs when you stop working. The slow brainwaves of deep sleep, or NSDR, permanently fuse that connection into a solid bridge. The intense visual focus and the period of passive rest form a single biological loop. Focus is a repeatable and mechanical sequence. By managing your baseline stimulation, locking your visual attention, actively parking distractions, and prioritizing actual rest, you're no longer relying on motivation. You are simply operating the machinery of your mind.